people have asked how to put down gold leaf. What size do you use? How tacky should it be? How to get a brilliant finish? And how do you engine turn? So I can show you all of that. It's all pretty basic. The thing you have to resign yourself to is you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to put on the gold too soon, it's going to get dull, and you're going to burn through when you engine turn. You're going to put it on too late, and it's going to see all the seams of the gold, and it's going to look kind of scratchy more than engine turn. So you have to make those mistakes to find out really when it's the right time to put down the gold leaf. So it's not a hard thing, it's just something you got to kind of get a feel for. The one thing I want you to think of when this is all happening is like a little kid tying his shoes. That kid doesn't get all discouraged on himself and say, oh, I can't do this, I'm a loser, right? The kid just tries, can't do it, moves on to something else, comes back a little bit later, tries again, and then one day showing his mom, watch this, right? And that's what our goal here. We're gonna try to get the gold leaf to a point where you can say to someone you love, check this out.
Alright guys, there's two types of gold size. There's quick drying gold size, which dries in about an hour, and then there's slow set gold size, which dries overnight or about 12 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the quick size. I use quick size for vehicles and things that are going to be cleared, and I use slow size for signs like carved signs and things like that. So let's mix up some size and put it on the panel. Alright, so I'm going to put a little bit of color in here. This is imitation gold. There's just, a little bit on this brush. I'm going to come up here, I'm going to mix it around, and I'm going to start seeing it turn a color. And then I'm going to take this out, wipe it off. Then wipe off my skin, because it's not as fun as one might think. So I'm going to mix that up. Now I have just enough color in there so I can tell where I've put my gold size. The more color you put in, the better chance your gold is not going to look as shiny. Alright, now let's get a brush. You look like a good victim today. This is just old paint thinner that I let settle. And then a little bit of new paint thinner. Wipe off the brush stuff, technical term. The preservative brush oil. Then I put it through some nice clean stuff so I don't get contaminants or as much. This brush is pretty well done. You see, it doesn't want to bend from here back. It's good for this demonstration, but it's been used and abused.
One thing you really want is a clean environment. I want to make sure that the area I'm in is clean. I want to make sure that the panel's clean. And then like today, if you can see around my shop, I'm not sure what's in view. We're making a bunch of signs. We're going to be cutting some boards. I don't want the sawdust to be going all over my panel in my gold size or anything like that. So having a clean environment is pretty important, or very important. Waiting too long. So I take my gold size. You can see I took it right out of the can. I mixed it with some color. I do not thin it. Now I've seen some very reputable people say that they thin it out. If that works for them, go to it. But I learned not to thin it. When it gets a little chunky, I just get a new can. And sometimes when it's thinned, for me, it can be really inconsistent with the time that it takes.
Alright, so see these brush strokes in here? They're going to kind of flow and mellow out. I want to get a nice smooth coverage. I want to check if there's any like dust or anything like that in there. So here's something incidentally. I put my brush down, I twirl it slightly, and I put weight to the outside edge. So that's what I'm focusing on. I don't care about this side. Put my brush down, put weight to the outside edge. You know, slightly. It's kind of, you twirl it to get to that corner. Put my brush down, weight to the outside edge, and spin it to get to that corner. So I think I see like a little goober in there. I'll just come in, I'll pick it up like that, and I'll wipe it on my palette. Alright, so this square could be anything. It could be a letter, or it could be a pinstripe design, it could be anything. Doesn't really matter. Just putting the gold size down. I'm going to work in a quick and consistent manner. But it's all about time when it comes to the, you know, how the gold is going to go down. So I can't have this part of my square done 15 minutes ago. I went out and had a coffee or a bud or something, come back, and then I'm going to work on that part. It's not going to work because this will be drier than this. Now, gold size has a window of opportunity, let's call it, where the stuff's going to stick down. Quick size is a little bit shorter window, and slow size has a way bigger window that the gold looks good. So that's the characteristics of that. So now we're going to take these 3 squares, we're going to let them dry for about an hour, and then we're going to come back and we'll see how the gold goes down. Let's talk about the gold leaf and putting things on too soon. So here's the gold that I'm using. It's a patent leaf. It comes in what's called a book. On the book there's pages. On these pages the gold is on paper. There's also a loose leaf where the gold is just in between the sheets and it's loose. Here's my gold size, the first square I made. It's too soon to gold leaf. How I know is I go like this and I start seeing my fingerprints in it. Now you're not going to see that, but I can see an actual fingerprint like a police detective. When I drag it, it makes like a popping sound. Hear that? It doesn't make a squeak, it's like... So now what's going to happen is the paper that it's on is going to stick to that gold size probably. Let's see if that happens. And, okay, so you can see it's stuck there a little bit. Here's a trick if it sticks. Alright. If you're doing a real job and you got some paper stuck there, it can really stink, especially if it's in the middle of a letter. Fold some tape around and kind of give it a, you can get some of that paper off. Usually your panel's not going to be moving all around because it's a vehicle or something. Alright, now it's really stuck. See? So that's too soon. This is a mistake you're going to need to make. When is too soon? Yeah. Okay, so there's our gold. It's on. Here's all my seams. Give me the old smackdown. Then I take some cotton. I'm going to give it a rub side to side. I'm going to see right here that I missed a little corner. Come in with some of this scrap. You want to find out you've missed the parts usually before the cotton, but sometimes not. Okay. So now let me get a burnisher I don't care about. Alright, so the reason I got one I don't care about is because sometimes when you burn through, the glue will get on here and kind of muck it up. This is velvet over a cotton ball and then just taped up. So what I'm going to want to do is spin before I make contact and apply the amount of pressure needed for that gold. So I'm going to go like this. Okay, now I'm going to go lighter and lighter. I'm going to go as light as I possibly can. Too soon. It's too soon. It burnt through. Let me see if I can get closer on that. See those dark spots? That's burned through. Let me really burn through one. Alright, here's a real big dark spot. That's crap, right? So that's too soon. We'll wait a little bit and hopefully this one will be perfect. Been about an hour. I'm going to test my panel. I'm not getting much. I'm getting a little bit of a mark where my finger is, but I'm not getting much. And oftentimes you get a little bit of a squeak. Sounds a little bit different than your fingers sticking into some like wet paint or something like that. So I think it probably could go another 5 minutes, another 15 minutes. It's tough to say, but this is fine too because I know it's in the parameters of what I'm looking for. So I touch my gold down. I rub the gold down. I don't go to the edge of the paper because I don't want the paper sticking in there. And I'm going to do the rest of that. Alright, so there's the gold. You can almost tell it's way better than the first one we did. And I'm going to get that seam. Now this is just the way I was taught. I mean, there's probably 1,000 ways to do this, but this is what I know. I'm going to use the velvet. I'm going to go left to right. It's kind of important to go left to right because it's creating really microscopic grooves that will trap the light. Okay, so now I have a piece of velvet around a cotton ball with an elastic around it. Kind of makes this pad. You can make them different sizes depending on what size you want your turns to be. I usually like to make them as big as I can for the width of the letter or whatever you're working with. So I want to take it. I want to test a little bit of what the dryness is. So I'm not going to go full speed and hard on my first turn. So I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to turn it. I'm going to do the next one. Just kind of go in order. And then just move on down. Then you can also like kind of alternate, like get inside the groove of the other one. Whatever you want to do. But this is, and you can go back even and say like, oh, I want one right here. It's soft, it will do whatever. You know, so I try to make a pattern. I usually work downward. Why I worked across right now, God knows, right? So then I'll look and I'll say, well, maybe I can do a little bit better. So I'll just try to give it a little bit more pressure. See if I'm going to burn through or not. And I see I'm not, so I'm just pressing down. You can see this is almost overlapping the other ones. For this demonstration, I'm doing stuff like this, but on a regular letter, I'll just go, you know, around the letter, and I won't be going on top of it and stuff. So here, let me see if I can get this image going. So here's the gold leaf spun. You can see it's nice and shiny. It's doesn't have any burn throughs like this one does, and that's the proper time. So now we've discussed that. We'll come back and try to hit this one when it's this one over here when it's too late. Okay, this one's going to show what happens when you wait too long. There's not much of a tack here. It's a little bit. It's always going to stick because the gold will stick to almost anything, and sometimes it sticks to where the size isn't even. Now when you go to put the glue down, or the, excuse me, when you go to put the gold down, it's going to want to slide, and it's actually not too bad right now. I'm purposely doing seams. Alright. If you hold the paper over, you can see where you missed the gold. It's kind of like a little trick. I'm going to take my cotton Go like that. Now, I don't know if you can see it that well. I'm gonna go like this. You can see where the seams are. See those lines? That's because it's just a little bit too far gone and it doesn't want to blend as well. It's going to be really shiny if you go too long. That's kind of the cool part of it. But you can see it doesn't really make a solid surface. Then when I go to burnish it, it's more of a scratch. It's not this deep like luster, like real record grooves, LP grooves like vinyl. So then when you go to burnish it, it's just not as good as this one. You know, look at that and then look at over here. I'm going to move the camera. Now, one thing I didn't go over properly when I was doing this one is how your pattern goes. So I did 3 in a line. I'll come next to it and I'll overlap slightly. I'll do 3 more. I'll come next to it and I'll overlap slightly and do 3 more. You want your pattern to be fairly regular and you want to think about it. You don't want to just throw them on like I did here. But I'm not used to doing the videos and sometimes I'll get distracted. So here's the gold now. That's gone too far and you can tell it doesn't have a really deep burnish to it. We've gone over the gold leaf technique here. The quick size, too soon. It's burning through. It's kind of dull. Just right. Looks just right. And too late. Shiny as heck. But you see all these seams and you really don't get much of an engine turn. So I hope that helps. And feel free to contact me anytime with any questions you guys might have. I'd be willing to help.